the spring to go for linebackers then?
It's been good. I think there's some positives, and I think Coach Kelly's given us a lot of really interesting looks that we can coach off of, which is good. Stuff that's unique. But I think it's been going well. The guys are growing every day, and you have a veteran like Cody Simon helps kind of set the pace for the room with the way he prepares and how good he is with attention to detail. So I think it's been a good start.
Have you got this watch on Saturday? That's just going great. It seemed like Sonny and CJ were doing a lot of good stuff, causing a lot of good behavior for the offense. Is that just what the day was, or is there a little bit more to this Quincy package than maybe there has been in the last year or two?
Well, I think we had a lot of pressures in last year as well. We didn't really need to maybe use them as much as the year before. But we repped them in practice, and I think it's something that when you're going to be aggressive on defense, a lot of times in spring you're always trying new stuff out and fine-tuning the stuff that you did the year before and all that. So we have some very talented athletes that can blitz. It's one of CJ's strong suits. Sonny's gotten much better at blitzing this spring. And so I think you just got to try to utilize what you guys do well.
Better habits,
Timing. I mean, I think a lot of it is just confidence. Like for Sonny, it's just telling him don't think. When you're going, you just got to make something happen. You can't really think too much about it. When you have that kind of athleticism, him, CJ, Ardell, you just got to go. I think sometimes you try to be so perfect with what the move is. When you just go with speed and let your natural athleticism take over, then you're deadly.
Can you scoot up the mic for me just a little bit? Thank you.
Is that sort of working the safety out of him a little bit, James, or is it not that simple?
I think Sonny's made a really smooth transition to linebacker. The early days you had to work on. Luke Fickler used to say this to us all the time. He'd say, "Be slow until it's time to be fast in the box." And what that means is you have to have calm feet, and he's so used to breaking and going from safety, you had to slow him down. He's so explosive. And so he's really gotten his footwork under control. It's a never-ending process. But for a guy that played, and look, I think playing at safety, seeing the game from that perspective, now moving up, he has a good idea of the whole scheme and how everything kind of works together. So it's been a really smooth transition for Sonny.
How much better do you feel about C.J. Hicks now, more than halfway through this spring, than maybe you did a month ago? I mean, what has he shown you? Do you see stuff there that's going to translate into playing more in the fall?
I think so. I think C.J. Hicks has done a phenomenal job. You got to keep pressing him and making sure that he's really tapping into everything that he can offer. I think C.J. sees the opportunity, and he's certainly making a case to get on the field this fall. So I think it's been a really good spring for CJ. There's just always, whenever you have a good day, you got to follow it up by another good day, and kind of stack days. And I think that's what a pro does. You know what I mean? Like there's always, you want to be a pro, you got to keep stacking them. That's the expectation. And I think he's had some really good days, and then he's had some days where you're trying to push him a little bit. But I think CJ, where he is now compared to where he was last fall, is he's a lot better football player.
We've heard a lot of good things about a lot of individuals from your recruiting so far this year, going down to Gabe Powers, Arvell Reese. Are you envisioning right now that you want this to be a 4, 5, 6-person operation when we get to the fall?
Yeah, well, I think Coach Day's talked about it a lot, right? It's going to be a long season. And so I think we need to have – I've always been of the opinion, if you have 2 guys, you have 2 guys, and you ride with them, right? If you have 6, you have 6, and that's a blessing. So I'd say right now we're probably at 5. That I would feel confident rotating out there on the field. And look, I'm old school, right? So I come from the era, I used to yell at Luke Fickell when he would take me out. Oh, I'd get so mad. It'd be 42 whatever against Youngstown State, and I'd be so upset coming out of the game. But seeing how violent this game is from this perspective, now you have to say, hey, okay, not only within games can we keep guys fresh, right? But can we do that so that when you get to the last few games of the season that are the big ones, right, the ones that you're judged off of, when you get to the game, are we healthier? And I think it's kind of a both and, right? So I feel confident with 5 guys, and that's going to be week to week. You know what I mean? Like, these guys know, I think, honestly, who starts should be week to week. If you display during the week of practice that you're locked in and somebody else has a bad mental week, well, I can't reward you with starting if you have 6 mental errors during the week, you know what I mean, just because you started last week. So I think it's got to be that iron sharpens iron, constant competition through the whole fall.
That doesn't sound like something James Laurinaitis would have enjoyed as a player, kind of as you just alluded to. But is that part of which is what has to drive you then? Was it driving you then that you just assumed that was kind of the case when you played anyway?
I always felt when I was here that they were trying to out-recruit me, which is the reality, right?
Yeah.
Which is why it prepares you so well for the National Football League. That's why Ohio State prepares you so well for the league, because now it's like they're trying to out-draft you. And so I use that as fuel, but I also saw it firsthand. You know, like, there was a season where it was John Kerr, Marcus Freeman, certain guys rotating week to week. And so I saw, like, shoot, if it can happen to them, it can happen to me. So I just tried to be a certain way in practice. Like, I tell the guys all the time, you have to control the things that take no talent. You have to eliminate all loafs. Like, if you loaf on the field, you're a traitor. Like, you should just go play for their team. Like, you can't be coaching effort. And then you can't have mental errors. Because if you have a mental error, then you can't trust you. So those were the two things that I always, as a player, was like, all right, you're not going to catch me loafing, and you're definitely not going to catch me not knowing what I'm supposed to do. I might get beat, and that's inevitable. It's football. Everyone's on scholarship, right? But those two things you can control every single day.
What's the next step in Sonny's transition?
I think it's just seeing, you know, we haven't done like any live periods, you know what I mean? So we know he can tackle and all that, but I think it's just the repetitive grind of a football game from in the box, the constant. And he's been willing so far, you know what I mean? As far as his hand placement has been good, he's been willing to strike, he's tough. So it's just continuing to have him challenged to. There's plays right now where he's seeing it for the first time from a Will backer, and so the next time he sees it, maybe a throw, catch, tackle that's an interception. You know what I mean? Because he's seen it before from that perspective. Everything he's seen before this has been from top down, off the shelf, right? So now it's dropping back, settling, driving. So he's made great progress, and I'm really happy with how Sonny's done.
James, looking at recruiting, it seems like it's going really well for you. Obviously, you can't talk about specific recruits, but just overall, how do you feel like that's going, and are you enjoying the recruiting?
I am enjoying it. I think it's fun to build relationships and get to know so many different types of kids, you know. Ohio State presents opportunity, right, in so many different ways. You're not going to get developed better anywhere else in the country. We have the largest fan base, the largest alumni. I mean, it's just opportunity everywhere, right? So you try to just explain your passion for the school that did so much for you, you know, especially being an out-of-state kid, not being from Ohio, and then realizing how much Ohio State changed my life. And so now you communicate that to other young kids who kind of see it, and you try to tell them the vision, like where you can get to. And I think the fun thing for me is that most of the kids I'm recruiting are way more athletic than I ever was. So it's like, I tell them, the only way I survived in the NFL 8 years was the fact that I had football intelligence. Like, I knew where I was going. You know what I mean? I knew where I was fitting. And so if I can impart that information on kids who are extremely athletic, well, now you got something special. You know what I mean?
How much are you guys as a staff already talking about a long season and the need to play more guys?
Well, I think, yeah, you're going to have depth. That's just the reality, right? It's a longer season. There's more games. And there's no excuse at a place like here. Like, if you're, I'm playing with maybe a guy who was third or fourth, it doesn't matter. You know, like, you got to be ready to go. So I think depth is crucial at all of our positions. Because injuries are going to happen. They're just part of football. You know, you never want to wish it upon anyone, and you're certainly not. But it's just, you can't be naive to think that you're just going to have every single starter healthy for the whole season.
You talked about your mentality as a player, and then you're recruiting different players than you were. How do you marry that when they may not have the same mentality that you needed, but you want them to have it?
Well, you figure that out when you get to know them. And there are certainly some kids that you start to recruit to where you see, like, you know what, Ohio State might be too big. It might be too big for them. You know what I mean? And so it's not for everybody. You have to want to come in and compete against the best and realize that you have to win every single game and be the best in the world at what you do. That's the expectation at Ohio State. And that's certainly not for everyone, and that's okay. but you have to, through the process, kind of find out who has that mentality, who really craves football. You know, like who craves football versus a lot of the other fluff that kind of comes with it. Who craves ball? Because if they crave football, then the other stuff will take care of itself, right? And we'll just keep getting better and better and better if they want to be the best.
Two more questions for James.
Yeah, I think that's your job as a recruiter, is you got to figure out what's the mindset of the kid, and are they serious about football? And you have to talk to the people that are around them, and you got to figure out, talk to coaches. You just got to try to figure out, like, who loves ball. And the NFL, they do the same thing, right? Now they're just handing you massive amounts of money, and they're saying, okay, well, if we're going to give this person money, does it change their motivation, or they still love ball? So now, I mean, in college, it's the same thing. Like, who actually wants to be the best, or who just likes the attention that comes with playing football?
James, I apologize if you already talked about it, but can you detail a little bit of the elevation for Marvell from end of last, and obviously missed some time last year with the injury, but where he's at now versus the expectation that you had coming into spring?
Marvell's, shown a lot of progress. You know, most importantly, mentally with the playbook and everything. I think Arvell, last year there was a couple things, right? Because of injuries on the D line in camp, he moved to end for a little bit, and then we brought him off the ball, and then he had an injury and he kind of missed some time. He wasn't an early mid-year, so he comes in right in the summer, and so he misses some reps there. So to see where he's at right now is extremely impressive. And for a guy of that size and that much power and his ability to run, he's a special athlete. And so Arvell's had a good spring. He's got to continue to dive into the playbook and got to continue to learn all the little things. And as you go, right, like week 1, week 2, you start seeing new schemes, things build, and it becomes kind of a lot. He's just got to continue to comb through it all, because athletically, he's one of the most gifted guys that we have in the room.
I know NIL is probably the biggest piece, but what has changed since the time that you've been recruited to now that you're recruiting? Like, are there fundamental differences you've noticed when you're on the field?
No, I think it still comes down, for the most part. Like, NIL is certainly an aspect for some. For some, it's going to be the most important thing. It's always a factor. But I think you still just need to find out who are the kids that love football and they want to be developed. And it's about the relationship to an extent. Like, a relationship gets you to the final stretch. For some kids, NIL might be the thing that pushes them over the top. I don't know. Like, every kid is so different, right? I try to view it as you're just building relationships, and are you going to get a young man to trust you to develop them into not only the player that they want to be, but the person that they want to be in the future? And can you convince mom and dad that you're the right person to do that? You know what I mean? So I think one of the things that is helpful is my playing experience. I think, when you've played and you've done it, and the drills that you're doing, you know that they work. You're not going to waste your time on stuff that doesn't work. And then the fact that, I'm blessed to be at my alma mater, so there's no sense of trying to leave here. You know what I mean? That's a question I get a ton, is where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, where I'm sitting, my alma mater. My kids love it in Columbus, obviously. I love Ohio State, so I think those are things that can kind of be an advantage.
James, I know you've been working with, the kickoff and punt teams as well. Just what's that look like for you in terms of getting involved in that thing?
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it because it gives you an opportunity to coach the whole team. You know what I mean? Like, special teams is a spot where the whole team, probably minus the quarterbacks, right, is all in one team room, in one meeting room. So you get to actually directly impact other positions than just your own. And I think it also gives a little bit of urgency to your own room. Like, when you're in there every single time, you better be making an impact on punt if you're a linebacker. You better be making an impact on kick return, or on kickoff return, punt return, all those things. You better be making an impact, right? Because your coach is in there all the time. So it's been nice, and there's a lot of stuff that I think our coaches have done to kind of push that sense of team when you're in special teams, that every position matters.
I'm curious, as someone who's been in the NFL, what do you think what the NFL is doing on the kickoffs now? And do you think that's something that could be good for college?
The thing that stinks is it takes away, like, the surprise onside. You know what I mean? But all these rules are changing so much for the safety of the game, and I think it's only a matter of time before it trickles down. It seems like everything trickles down. So we'll see. As of right now, we'll keep things going the way they are.
All right, James. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. Gross.